The battle of religious freedoms for prisoners now coming to a head in Houston. Earlier this week, lawyers for Nadia Irsan, an observant Muslim woman in the Harris County jail, said she was being denied access to traditional head coverings and sleeves. That's according to this story you see here on the Houston Chronicle. Because of the complaints, the sheriff's office moved to allow Irsan to wear her hijab behind bars. Irsan is in jail awaiting trial on a charge of stalking, accused along with her family for taking part in 2 fatal shootings back in 2012. Irsan's lawyers say her religious rights were violated, but does the sheriff have a duty to protect inmates' First Amendment rights while behind bars? That's our topic this half hour. We want to hear from you. You can weigh in on our Fox 26 Facebook page as well as Twitter. Just use the hashtag Fox26forlife. Joining us live in the newsroom is our panel led by our senior legal analyst Chris Tritico. We have former chair of the Harris County Republican Party Jared Woodfill and former congressman and attorney Chris Bell. Good morning to all of you again.
Good morning.
So what do you think about this case and the sheriff finally reversing course a bit?
Well, now the sheriff, after I posted that we were going to talk about this on the roundup, the sheriff reversed his policy because he obviously didn't want the criticism that he knew that we were going to have here on the roundup. So you're welcome. This is such an interesting case because it has such a nice constitutional clash here. When you're awaiting trial in the United States, the Constitution says you are presumed innocent. You're innocent until proven guilty. And so even though you're in jail, you're still innocent. And so she has not forfeited any of her constitutional rights like we do once we're convicted. And so is there a duty by the sheriff to ensure that all of her rights, including the First Amendment, religious freedom rights, are protected while she's in custody awaiting trial and innocent? And that's where I think the constitutional clash came about. I think the sheriff made the right decision in eventually reversing course and saying we're going to let her wear her hijab and her sleeves while she's in custody. I think that the ultimate argument that this is a safety issue fails on this case, because I don't know what she could have done with that she couldn't do with a bed sheet, Jared Woodfill. And I think the sheriff, any sheriff, not just Sheriff Hickman, any sheriff has a duty to protect the religious freedoms of the people that he's housing in his jail.
Well, this is obviously an individual that's been accused of participating in 2 honor killings. There obviously needs to be systems and guidelines in place that make sure that whatever the religious liberty issue that's being protected is, also deals with the safety concerns that jailers might have, the safety concerns for other inmates there too. So I was a little surprised that our sheriff backed down. I don't know that I would have backed down, given the fact that I don't know all of the details about what could or could not be hidden in these garments, but it seems a little unique that someone can be fully clad and covered up while they are in jail when we have pat-downs and so many other procedures in place that prevent you from being able to hide things that could potentially be harmful to yourself or to others in the jail system.
Well, yeah, the Constitution says you're innocent, and she's innocent in that jail, she hasn't forfeited one right. Doesn't the sheriff have a duty to protect her?
Well, you would think so, and you would think there would be a policy in place that you could just look and see what is the policy. And the truth of the matter is, if Christians were required to wear head coverings, then everyone would be wearing head coverings in the jail, and this wouldn't be an issue. But since it's a minority religion, the issue has been created. But her religious freedoms need to be respected, just like Christians' religious freedoms need to be respected, and there needs to be one policy. And if it's not, when you're talking about the jail, it's a question of security. And if it's not a security question, and obviously you can check the head covering to see if anything's being hidden in it, then her religious freedom should be respected.
And my only response to that would be, no, I think it's just the opposite. I think if it was an issue involving a Christian, those rights would be trampled all over. The reality is, because it is non-Christian belief, I think there is more heightened protection for that individual in what we have is a politically correct society today. And you see that occurring all across the country right now.
How's that? I mean, look.
Well, let's look up to Oregon. Let's go look up at Oregon. Melissa Sweetcakes. Melissa Sweet Cake says, we have deeply held religious beliefs regarding same-sex marriage. And they say we don't want to participate in a same-sex union. We don't want to bake a cake for this particular thing because it's against our deeply held religious beliefs. They are prosecuted to the extent of $189,000 and ultimately potentially held in contempt of court because of their deeply held Christian religious beliefs. That wouldn't have been the case, I believe.
But if they wanted to bake that cake for someone in jail and deliver it,
they could have.
We could try
So, well, let's get back to the jail situation. We've only got a minute left here. We're going to get a little bit off topic here. So how far, Chris Bell, how far does a sheriff have to go in protecting religious freedom?
That's a great question, but obviously, you know, that's something very important tenet of their faith, and we see it on a regular basis, and I do think that has to be respected. I don't know, to be real honest with you, because there has to be a stopping point somewhere.
Right, some security measures have
I don't know
to
where
come
you
into
draw the line, to be real honest with you.
Some religions require you to grow your beard pretty
Right.
long, and I think there would have to be some measure there. But this hijab, you can't have a security problem with that. I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're covered up, I mean, isn't that, I mean, you know a lot more about criminal law than I do, but if you are, I know so.
I'd like to think so.
If you're covered up, then there is an opportunity to hide this. Why should your garb be different than the garb of every other prisoner?
Right. Because you can check it before she puts it back on. We're going to have to leave it right there. I wish we could have more time on this. We're going to leave it right there. We'll be back in a few minutes, but we're about to go live. Tune into Facebook. We'll be live, and we may talk about it a little bit more. So.
All right.